Good morning. A day after the RBI's financial stability report warned about a 50% shooting in NPA levels from 8.5% of gross lending in March 2020 to 12.5% by March 21. So a day after the FSR talked about a 50% hike in NPA levels, in fact it said it would go up to 14.7% in a severe stress situation. Top bankers are asking the RBI not to extend the moratorium anymore. Veteran banker Deepak Parekh said this to RBI Governor Shaktikanta Das at a CII meeting yesterday. In fact, what he said was that the moratorium was only hurting bankers and weaker NBFCs. Interestingly, other CII members from the manufacturing sector, not from the financial sector like Deepak Parekh, interestingly, other members of CII all pitched for the moratorium to be extended. Both Deepak Parekh and Kotak Mahindra Bank Chief Uday Kotak made a plea to allow the banks to be able to do a one-time restructuring of loans there. What is interesting in this context is to look at the number of people or firms who've actually applied for a moratorium so far. In fact, this is what CARE Chief Economist Madan Sabnavis does on our op-ed page today. So what he sees is, what he finds that 65% of outstanding MSME loans, for instance, want a moratorium. And it's 56% in the case of individuals. So as Sabnavis points out, while we will get to know only later as to what share of these loans under moratorium have actually gone bad, even the actual numbers themselves give us a little bit of an indication as to what's going to happen. So for example, with the economy in trouble and individuals either facing salary cuts or job losses, it is quite evident that a large part of the personal loans that have been given by banks will turn into NPAs sooner rather than later. And not surprising, given their share of bank loans, it is 68% of PSU loans are under moratorium right now, and that number is just about is less than half. It's 31% in the case of private banks. And if you want to know how badly the economy is going to do, because that is what is actually going to determine whether you have a stress or a severe stress situation, if you want to have a little indicator as to how the economy is doing, the Nomura Business Resumption Index has stalled, and this is the second month in which it's stalling, so it suggests that the path ahead is going to be tricky. A weak financial sector, of course, will immediately put a cap on loan growth, which in turn will put a ceiling to how much economic growth can take place even when industry is ready for it. Essentially, what it means also is that the impact on government finances is not going to be limited to just what it's going to do right now, to, in terms of increased expenditure or lower tax revenues. Maybe by next year, the recapitalization expenses of banks will be quite considerable. And this is why it's very important that, as per what the government has been talking about, some privatization of banks takes place very quickly. That will, of course, it will alleviate some of the financial problems as far as the government is concerned. More important, when it gives a signal that the government is serious about reforms, you can expect a certain pickup in investment expenditure, and it is only then that the economic growth can pick up, and that in turn then will mean it will have good effects in terms of NPA levels, repayment on banks and things like that. Yeah. So it's very critical that those banks be privatized. India has been, over the past several weeks, if not months, one of the fastest growing countries when it comes to the coronavirus. Yeah. And it appears that in the next week or so, within this week itself in fact, it appears that within this week we will outpace Brazil when it comes to the number of fresh daily infections, and perhaps in another week and a half or 2 weeks will certainly outpace the United States as well. So India at that time will be the largest single daily contributor to corona infections in the world. The way to do it, the maths is quite simple. India's positivity, which is really the new infections divided by the new tests, India's positivity rate right now is about 11.7 or 11.8%, and India does about 5 lakh tests per day. The goal is to increase that to 1 million. So when you add another 5 lakh tests per day based on an 11% positivity rate, that means you get about 55,000 extra infections. So India's infections at that point go up to about 1 lakh per day, maybe a lakh 5,000 per day. And the United States is clocking about 75,000 or so. Maybe it goes up to 80, 85. So we'll outpace the United States as well. Now the problem here is that this positivity rate that we are talking about is actually a little bit on the low side because India does a lot of these what are called rapid antigen tests, which don't actually capture infection levels as well as the RT-PCR does. So in fact, if India was to step up the RT-PCR testing, the positivity rate may go up even more. In fact, that's a question that the Delhi High Court is asking the Delhi government, that please explain to us why you're not doing more RT-PCR tests, why are you doing more rapid antigen tests when you know very well that these don't capture the infection levels just as well. So let's see what the Delhi government has to say to the Delhi High Court. India plans to tighten norms for Chinese apps even more. I mean, the new norms are going to be put in place about where data can be stored and processed and things like that. And basically what the government is likely to say that these rules apply to countries which share a common border with India. So we have an interesting story in this context. It's our anchor story. It's a Reuters story. Essentially, it talks about how Chinese tech firms are facing a big squeeze the world over, when there's action in America or India or other countries, and the impact that this is likely to have on them. Thank you. Have a great day. Bye-bye.